couple of years ago looking at trying to match those high wind events with what was happening on the lake. But other than that, we're not doing any direct comparisons of those high wind events. It's probably an area that we can do work on, but I think probably what it'll tell us is probably what we already know, is that regardless of where the lake is sitting, if you get a high wind event, you will get erosion. And it depends on the direction of that wind. If it's blowing into one of the less stable areas of sediment and geology, then you'll get erosion, whereas if it's blowing straight into the western side of the lake and the cliffs, nobody cares. So I think, I don't know, I guess probably the bigger comment I'd make around monitoring is you can do a heck of a lot of monitoring. It comes back to the point I made before, is that you will never link exactly who's responsible through that monitoring. Back to, I think your first question was around are we doing the monitoring? Sorry.
First question was who's responsible, and secondly, is it being done and reported adequately? You think?
We have a suite of monitoring that's required under our consent, and we've also agreed to some monitoring which is over and above that. So I think probably the lion's share of monitoring at the moment is being done by us, I would say, around the lake. The analysis of that is we're doing that also. But I think the monitoring, if I'm reading your question right, I think the monitoring is something that all the parties should be doing in certain areas, depending on their activities and what they're interested in. But I guess I would just say again, I'd reiterate that I don't think throwing a whole lot more money into monitoring is really going to solve this problem.
Councillor Downard.
Yeah, just to follow on to that, Gavin, I mean, you mentioned it before that the only ones that win are the lawyers and the consultants, and, for good reason or bad reasons, I've been through the process and read all those reports back in 2007, 2008 through Opus, and you can pick out good and bad and come to a view of certain stuff. I suppose it really comes down to, is there actually hard data now, because the way the world is with storms and I know in civil defence, in the Christchurch earthquakes, people were adjusting or their views and their plans for the future, whether it's in your household or whether it's in business or corporations. Does Mighty River Power kind of look at, the trends of the way that the storms are happening and holding the holding tank out there to that maximum level? Do they look at whether dropping that by a little bit because of, the winds and that? Do they look at that and forecast in the future to say, hey, maybe we do need to drop it a little bit? That's you can call it the climate change or economic warming, the global warming and stuff like that. Do they look at that? Do they plan in those weather?
We've got an in-house meteorologist. We've got an in-house hydrologist. We pay a small fortune to Niwa to predict the weather for us and get it wrong half of the time. I think it is difficult to really predict where it's going. But yes, we're looking at, we've done some work on looking at climate change impacts and what that might mean for us. And I think it just comes back to, it's really difficult. You could if you tried to run the lake a bit lower, for example, in 2010 we had in 1 year we nearly went out the bottom of the lake, and we also went out the top. So it's just so hard to try and get your crystal ball out and know where you should run the lake at any one time, because you just don't know what's coming. And I think that's the issue, is even if you ran it a bit lower, I come back to my point before, is that when you get one of these big storm events, it really doesn't matter where your starting point is. You can open the gates and you'll finish wherever the storm lets you finish. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I suppose we haven't spent a heck of a lot of time trying to sit down and say, well, should we run the lake lower, and what would that mean? If that's the question you're asking.
Okay, all right. Well, I've just got a couple of quick ones to finish off with. I'm very conscious we've gone 15 minutes over the time, but this is a hot topic for people of Taupo, and I'm sure this webcam today will probably be the most drawn down one going forward with this issue of lakeshore erosion, etc., etc. Gavin, if you don't mind, I've just got a couple of quick ones I need to answer to, and I was involved, as you said, in the last triennium with a lot of these studies, whatever. Let's go back to tectonics. I've been told that the tectonics of this lake, that the Turangi southern end of the lake is dropping by 4 mils a year, correct?
Correct. In that
Over 10 years, one would presume that's 40 mils, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And where's the measuring device for the lake level? It's in Acacia Bay, isn't it? So if a bath is full of water and it drops at this end 4 mils every year, where's the water going to go? And what's this reading device going to say at this end?
I think it's not as, I guess it's not as simple as that, and nothing ever is. You know, what you've got is dropping and rising all around the lake. So you've got parts of the lake in the northern end that are also dropping. So I guess you're probably making your look. I don't want to surmise on exactly.
No, I just read it and I just thought, well, what do I make of that? So I asked you because my next question follows on that. How confident are you of the science that you've produced here today? How confident?
Oh, look, I think
out of 100%.
Oh, look, I guess I mean, my stock standard answer would obviously be 99%, but I guess I come back to my point before. This is not an exact science, and getting it exactly right is the challenge we all have. And I guess my point is, I'm saying, well, how much do you throw at trying to get that science exact when you could take that money? I mean, if you think about the amount of money we spent on that foreshore process, I guess, and if you'd taken that and you'd put it into erosion works, where would we be? And I'd probably argue we'd be significantly ahead of where we are now.
And when I first became the mayor, you did offer to come to my office and talk about it, and we still are yet to have that meeting. But I will carry on with my question. They're just short, sharp ones. As I understand it, you are advocating not having the review done next year where there is opportunity to be done?
Correct.
And if you were confident of your science, and you mentioned how good a company you are in the community and your environmental footprint and that sort of thing, why do you oppose that where it could come out and totally support you and exonerate the people that are saying that these high lake levels and high winds are causing erosion?
Because it comes back to my point before. There is no point. All you're going to do is throw a lot of money at hearings processes, at consultants, at lawyers, and still we won't have any work done on the lake.
Okay, fine. Is there anything further from any councillors? Leroy, Gavin and Natalie, my apologies. I do want to thank you very much for coming along and presenting to us today and helping us understand that this problem that we do have in our district. So there is a suggested resolution here that the information be received. Mighty River Power representatives be thanked for their presentation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Heckling. All in favour, aye.
Aye.
And I mean that a heartfelt thanks from our council, and I guess we'll be